The night was dark, the sea restless, yet eerily silent. Waves struck against the small boats carrying a team of U.S. Navy soldiers, their eyes fixed on the horizon. Their mission was deadly and urgent. Stop the enemy submarine transporting nuclear weapons before it vanished into the depths. The commander's voice echoed in their headsets. You have 30 minutes. If that submarine disappears, the world will face devastation. Determination lit their eyes as they tightened their grips on their rifles. Suddenly, the radar picked up movement. Enemy patrol boats had spotted them. Without warning, the silence of the ocean was shattered by the thunder of gunfire. Bullets sliced through the night sky, spraying water around them. The U.S. soldiers retaliated with precision, shifting positions as explosions lit up the dark waves. The sea became a battlefield of fire and chaos. Amidst the chaos, Captain Reacher, their leader, was struck by shrapnel. Blood soaked his uniform, but his spirit remained unbroken. Stay on course. The sub is ours, he shouted, forcing himself forward. With fierce determination, Reacher climbed onto an enemy patrol boat. Hand-to-hand combat erupted. Fists, knives, and desperation clashed under the pale moonlight. Gritting his teeth, Reacher overpowered the enemy and leapt toward the looming submarine. He set the explosive charge at its forward hatch, his hands trembling from blood loss but steady with resolve. The team pulled back just in time. A deafening explosion ripped through the submarine's hull. The vessel cracked, flames bursting out as seawater rushed inside. Nuclear cargo slipped beneath the waves, lost forever to the ocean's depths. Enemy soldiers panicked, their formation shattered. The U.S. team encircled them, forcing surrender. Smoke and fire drifted over the sea, the echoes of the blast still rolling across the waves. Captain Reacher, barely standing, looked at the burning wreckage. With a deep breath, he whispered, "Tonight, after the submarine explosion, the sea was still burning with fire and smoke. The U.S. soldiers thought the mission was over, but the real danger had just begun." Captain Reacher, wounded but standing strong, ordered his men to scan the area. Suddenly, their sonar picked up another signal. It was not debris. It was another submarine, larger and more advanced, moving silently beneath the waves. This was the enemy's backup plan. The team had little time. Ammunition was low, boats were damaged, and Reacher was bleeding. Still, retreat was not an option. If that sub escapes, the mission is wasted, he said firmly. Enemy helicopters appeared on the horizon, shining searchlights across the ocean. The soldiers opened fire, bullets cutting through the night sky. Explosions rocked the water as rockets rained down. The team fought bravely, their small boats dancing between waves of fire. Reacher devised a desperate plan. Dive into the sea, attach magnetic charges to the enemy submarine, and destroy it from below. 3 soldiers volunteered. With oxygen tanks strapped on, they slipped into the dark, cold water. Underwater, everything was silent except for their own heartbeats. The massive submarine loomed like a steel monster. Enemy divers suddenly attacked, knives flashing in the darkness. A brutal underwater fight began, silent but deadly. The Americans fought with all their strength, pushing through the freezing current. At last, the charges were planted. The divers swam back as the timer ticked. Moments later, the ocean shook with a violent explosion. The submarine split apart, sending shockwaves through the sea. The soldiers surfaced, gasping for air. Above, Reacher raised his fist. Victory again, but at a heavy cost. The war in the ocean was not finished. This was only the beginning. The ocean was finally calm, but the soldiers were exhausted. Their boats drifted quietly as the first light of dawn touched the waves. Captain Reacher, still bleeding, looked at his men and said, "We survived the night. But the war isn't over yet." They sent a signal for extraction. A U.S. Navy ship was on its way to pick them up. The team felt relief, but didn't last long. As the sun rose, a strange vessel appeared on the horizon. At first, they thought it was friendly, but soon they noticed something wrong. The ship was flying a false flag. It was the enemy in disguise. Before they could react, the vessel opened fire. Heavy cannons roared, shaking the ocean. Explosions surrounded the soldiers' boats, splashing water high into the air. The enemy wanted to finish what the submarines could not. Reacher made a bold decision. We board that ship. It's our only chance. Under heavy fire, the team moved fast. Using ropes and grappling hooks, they climbed onto the massive enemy vessel. A fierce battle erupted on deck. Bullets cracked, knives flashed, and smoke filled the air. The soldiers fought room to room, hull to hull, clearing the ship with grit and fury. Then came the shocking twist. Deep inside the ship's control room, they discovered something unexpected. A U.S. officer tied up, beaten but alive. He revealed a chilling truth. Someone from within their own command had betrayed them, leaking their mission to the enemy. The team froze. The mission was bigger than they had imagined. Not only were they fighting enemies at sea, but also a hidden traitor in their own ranks. Captain Reacher clenched his fists. This is not just a battle. This is a hunt for the traitor. The war had taken a darker turn. The captured U.S. officer sat weakly in the corner of the enemy ship's control room. His voice was hoarse as he repeated the chilling words. There is a traitor inside your own command. Captain Reacher's team exchanged tense glances. The ocean mission had already cost them blood, but this revelation changed everything. Someone back at headquarters was feeding the enemy their every move. They secured the enemy vessel and waited for extraction. Soon, helicopters arrived and lifted them to safety. But the mood was heavy. Victory felt poisoned by betrayal. Back on the U.S. Navy carrier, Reacher reported to his higher officers. Instead of praise, he was met with suspicion. One admiral asked sharply, "How did the enemy know your route? How did they prepare so perfectly?" For the first time, Reacher realized the traitor could be very high up in command. That night, while the team rested, Reacher reviewed the mission logs. Strange code signals had been sent during their operation, signals masked as routine orders. He traced them back, but the trail ended suddenly, blocked by classified access. Someone powerful was hiding their tracks. Meanwhile, his soldiers grew restless. They trusted Reacher, but whispers of doubt spread. "What if the traitor is one of us?" one soldier muttered. The tension nearly tore them apart, but Reacher stood firm. "No, we face this together. If we break now, the enemy wins." The next morning, new orders came. The team was to deploy again, this time into enemy territory on land. But Reacher noticed something. The orders carried the same strange code signature as before. His heart pounded. Was this another trap? Was someone at the top sending them to their deaths? Reacher clenched his jaw. If this is a trap, then we'll turn it against them. The hunt for the traitor had begun. The mission orders looked official, stamped with the Navy's seal. But Captain Reacher's instincts told him something was wrong. Still, he and his team had no choice. Soldiers follow orders. At night, helicopters dropped them deep inside enemy territory, a rugged coastline with cliffs and dense jungle. Their objective: destroy a secret enemy communications base. The soldiers moved silently through the jungle, night vision goggles glowing faint green. Every step was careful, every sound magnified in the darkness. But then, the forest went silent. No birds, no insects, just silence. Reacher raised his hand, signaling stop. His gut twisted. A second later, the ground exploded beneath them. Mines. Bullets rained from the trees. Dozens of enemy soldiers surrounded them in a perfectly planned ambush. Tracer rounds streaked the night sky as the jungle lit up with fire. The U.S. team fought back fiercely, taking cover behind rocks and fallen trees. Explosions shook the ground, smoke choking the air. 2 soldiers were hit, screaming as their brothers dragged them to safety. The enemy's numbers seemed endless. Reacher realized the truth. The traitor had led them straight into this death trap. But instead of despair, his anger turned into strategy. He spotted a ridge above the battlefield where enemy snipers were hidden. With a quick signal, he and 2 soldiers crawled through mud and shadows, climbing the ridge under fire. Reacher reached the snipers silently. In brutal close combat, he eliminated them one by one. Grabbing the enemy's heavy machine gun, he turned it back on them. A storm of bullets cut through the ambush, giving his men a chance to push forward. By dawn, the jungle floor was silent again, covered in smoke and bodies. The team had survived, but just barely. Breathing hard, Reacher looked at his wounded soldiers. This wasn't war, this was betrayal. And now, we hunt the one responsible. The real enemy was still hidden. The jungle ambush left scars, 2 soldiers dead, 3 wounded, and the rest exhausted. But Captain Reacher's fire only grew stronger. He knew now that the battle was no longer just against the enemy across the sea. It was against a hidden hand inside their own command. Back at the Navy carrier, Reacher demanded answers. He reviewed satellite data, intercepted signals, and every order log from the mission. Finally, he found it, a hidden transmission sent just minutes before their ambush. The source was encrypted, but Reacher recognized the pattern. It matched the mysterious code he had seen earlier. His heart sank. The transmission came from inside the carrier itself. The team began a silent investigation. Every officer, every technician, even their own handlers became suspects. The air grew tense. Soldiers whispered in fear, not of the enemy, but of betrayal from within. Late that night, Reacher caught someone sneaking into the communications room. He moved like a shadow, gun drawn. The figure turned. In the dim red light, Reacher froze. It was Commander Harris, a respected senior officer, someone Reacher had trusted for years. Harris smirked, calm and cold. "You weren't supposed to survive the ambush, Reacher. You and your men ruined months of planning." Reacher's chest burned with rage. "You betrayed your country." "What?" Harris's eyes gleamed with arrogance. "Countries are temporary. Power is forever. I sold the intel, and the enemy paid well. Soon, the world will bow to whoever controls the seas. And you were just a pawn." Before Reacher could fire, Harris triggered the alarm. Armed guards stormed the room. The traitor had planned everything, even this confrontation. Reacher fought his way out, but now he and his team were fugitives on their own ship, hunted by the very people they once trusted. The real war had just begun. The alarms blared across the Navy carrier. Red lights flashed as Captain Reacher and his soldiers ran through the steel corridors, hunted by their own men. Commander Harris had painted them as traitors, claiming they were working with the enemy. Everywhere, guards searched with rifles ready. The team moved like shadows, disabling cameras, knocking out patrols, staying one step ahead. But time was running out. Reacher gathered his men in a storage bay. His voice was low but steady. "We're no longer part of the command. Harris controls the system, the comms, and the chain of command. If we fight by the book, we're already dead. From this moment, we go rogue." The soldiers nodded. Their loyalty was unshaken. Using stolen access cards, they broke into the ship's intelligence room. Inside, Reacher found the proof he needed. Encrypted files showing Harris had been selling U.S. naval routes and nuclear defense codes to the enemy. If released, those codes could collapse the entire country's security. But before they could escape, Harris's voice thundered over the ship's intercom. "Attention crew, Reacher and his men are enemy agents. Capture them alive or dead." Suddenly, the carrier itself became a war zone. Hallways turned into firefights, steel walls shaking with gunfire. Reacher's team fought like cornered lions, using smoke grenades and flashbangs to break through wave after wave of their own comrades. At last, they reached the hangar bay. Helicopters roared on standby. Reacher climbed aboard with his men, exchanging fire as the aircraft lifted into the night sky. Below, the Navy carrier shrank, alarms still screaming. For the first time, the soldiers were not heroes. They were outlaws, hunted by their own flag. Reacher looked at his team. "We'll clear our names. But first, we bring Harris down." The fight was no longer about survival. It was about justice. The rogue soldiers flew across the ocean in silence, the weight of betrayal heavy on their shoulders. For the world, they were fugitives. For each other, they were brothers. And for Captain Reacher, there was only one mission left: take down Harris, no matter the cost. Through stolen intel, they discovered Harris's plan. He was meeting enemy agents at a secret offshore base to sell the final set of nuclear codes. If he succeeded, global war would be unstoppable. The team struck at night. Storms raged, lightning cutting across the black sky as their helicopter descended on the enemy base. Alarms wailed, searchlights swept the rain-soaked docks, and soldiers poured out to defend Harris's deal. The battle was fierce and desperate. Gunfire echoed against steel walls, grenades lit up the storm, and the sea boiled with fire. One by one, Reacher's men pushed forward, refusing to back down. Inside the command bunker, Harris waited, smug, confident, holding the data drive in his hand. When Reacher stormed in, soaked and bleeding, Harris sneered. You could have been part of history, Reacher. Instead, you chose loyalty to a flag that doesn't care about you. Reacher raised his weapon, eyes burning. Loyalty isn't for sale. The two men clashed in brutal combat. Fists, knives, and rage in the flicker of emergency lights. Harris fought dirty, but Reacher's fury was stronger. With a final strike, he slammed Harris to the ground and shattered the data drive under his boot. The deal was destroyed. The codes were safe. But not all victories are clean. Harris lay defeated, yet the world still believed Reacher and his men were traitors. As dawn broke over the ocean, the team stood together, bruised but unbroken. Reacher looked at the rising sun. We may be hunted, but we know the truth. And one day, the world will too. The war was over, but their legend had just begun.